if they all separated and went their separate ways. You wouldn't care. If they decided that Nicolas Cage was best with Zandalee, you wouldn't care. If they decided to live a life of polygamy, you wouldn't care. Because these characters are designed to make you hate them. I'm fairly certain that's what it is. If you want to have characters that are the main characters but aren't good, like anti-heroes or, just jerks in general, that's fine. But when you make every main character like that, then you have a film that's unwatchable. And that's what they did in this film. I don't know how it went through so much production and no one thought, should we make these people not the absolute scum of the earth? And then Zandalee and Terry they're like making up, they're going out on a boat on the bayou because they live in New Orleans and they got to do all of that. And despite the fact they live in New Orleans, every single person they meet is not from there because no one has an accent. Nicolas Cage almost does, but he loses it about 10 minutes through. The accents that are there are New York accents, Texas accents, or no accents. And you'd think that living in New Orleans, they'd be, some sort of New Orleans accent, but there's zero. It feels so out of place. But when they're on the bayou, they meet Nicolas Cage and then they go on a boat ride. And then Terry pulls out a gun because he knows that they've been having an affair. And neither of them react like a normal person would if someone pulled a gun on them. They're like, "Oh, Terry, what are you doing? Why do you have a gun?" And then he points it at them, points it at himself. They're blank-faced. They don't seem to care what's happening. And then he shoots a water and say, "Hey, you're going nuts." That's not a reaction you have when a man that you've both been cuckolding the entire movie pulls a gun out on you and himself. You're like, "Whoa, I'm sorry." You know what they say? Mistakes happen. You don't say, "Man, what's wrong with you?" You know what's wrong with him. You've been doing it for an hour and 10 minutes. And then they're driving around a boat some more. They're trying to find Nicolas Cage's and Terry's new place to hang out since their old one in the bayou is missing, isn't anywhere. And Nicolas Cage knocks him off of the boat because he's standing up. He's a little drunk. He knocks him off the boat, and then he drowns in the most anticlimactic way. You see the back of his head, and then it cuts to a scene of his face just poking out of the water, and then he's like, "Ugh," and slowly sinks in the water. And they're upset a little bit about his death. They try to save him. He dies, and Zandalee says, "You know what? We can't do this anymore, Nicolas Cage. Sucks to be you." But then, of course, 5 minutes later, they're back walking on the streets. And then they decided that the same plot device was so nice, they used it twice. Because they're walking along, a street. And then this guy who I wasn't paying full attention during the film, but I don't remember him at all. He drives up in a car, pulls a gun out, and shoots Zandalee 4 times trying to hit Nicolas Cage. And then he says something like, "Gotta make sure your account's deductible." He says it like we were supposed to know what that means. Like there was a reference in the past of the movie that we should have known about. That would make sense as a reference. Like, oh my god, he didn't do his accounting right. He didn't pay his taxes on time. But no, it's just a random line from a random character we've never seen before, shoehorned in there to create a dramatic ending. Zandalee dies. Her cross-dressing friend that we saw a few times before comes up to her. She shows no emotion because apparently in New Orleans, people get gunned down in the streets every single time, and anytime anyone pulls a gun, it's not enough of a event to warrant any reaction from any characters. And that's how the film ends. I feel like that's the best way the film could have ended. Actually, second best way the film could have ended. If Nicolas Cage was killed as well, that would have been the best. Because then the love triangle would have been fully a grave triangle. But yes, I feel like the only way to have dealt with any of those characters is to have killed them. It may be a bit harsh, but if you watch the film, which I recommend you don't, you'll understand why all three of them don't deserve any happiness. Warning for the film, though, if you plan on watching it, there is a lot of nudity involved. So it's not a family-friendly movie. It warrants its R rating. But if you do want to subject yourself to this film, then go ahead, as long as there's no children around. So with that, I'd give the film a 2 out of 10, and Nicolas Cage's performance a 4 out of 10. He played a convincing, obnoxious artist, but he had one too many freak-out episodes for my taste. And that's it for this episode of the Ups and Downs of Nicolas Cage. Thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to give it a 5 stars rating on the Apple iTunes iPodcast iStore, or share with your friends and families, because every listen helps. If they say that it's not available where they listen to podcasts, then they're lying and they don't care about you trying to expand their tastes, because I'm available anywhere you can listen to podcasts. Be sure to stay on the lookout for this Monday's episode, which is called Wild at Heart. If you want to stay up to date, follow my Instagram and Twitter. Instagram is Ups and Downs of Nicolas Cage. Twitter is @theupsanddowns4. And again, thank you so much for listening, and have a wonderful day.